Super. Hi, Dominic. I'm really excited and grateful for your time for this. I know you and I have chatted offline before around the myriad that is TA, and a couple of topics have passed us by with relevance to this conversation. But I think we're going to go for etiquette in job search, aren't we, today?
We are indeed. So, afternoon, Harriet. Thank you for having me.
Hello.
Yeah, we've known each other for a few years, haven't we? I think I was a candidate
Yep.
of yours. We've stayed in
Yep.
touch ever since. So there you go. Anyone that's watching this, Harriet is one of the good ones in the
Yeah.
in the recruitment space as well. So yes, today we're dissecting etiquette in recruitment, which is going to be an interesting topic and one that's probably quite pertinent right now.
Yeah, and it's been difficult because, which I'm sure we'll cross into the other topic, kind of AI, but with the market over the last 4 years probably has been quite a turbulent market in terms of volume of jobs versus people looking for roles and that sort of thing. Never more so has it been important to really own your job search. And I know that sounds a bit cliched, but gone are the days of just flinging a CV across and hoping someone's going to get back to you. But in the same vein, lots of things have changed. So on LinkedIn, that quick apply button is very easy just to press and kind of spread your CV thinly. So I guess that a recruitment individual has a job. So a recruitment partner like me or a TA specialist like you has a job, obviously. But equally, I'd like to flip it on its head and talk about what the onus is on the person looking for a role, in your view.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has changed over the last couple of years. Like COVID showed us that it could be a really, really volatile environment, right, and a really competitive environment. I think you have to back yourself and go to market with the best version of yourself, but also do something different. And it also taught us as well, focus on networks and networking, because I think stats show there's 1 billion people now on LinkedIn. 1% actually use it to post and engage on content, which is, look, nothing wrong with that. You haven't got to be a content creator, right? But you have to be visible on the platform. Hence why I see your content. You see my content, and I guess in regards to my own job search right now, because of the network that I've built and the content, the visibility that I've generated on the platform, I've had people come to me about roles that aren't released yet, roles that are on the market that I've had referrals for, right? So I think it's a very tough market right now for candidates, but I think equally as well, they're not helping themselves in their job search. And long gone are the days, and again, respectfully, it's dependent on your role. If you're a really experienced developer, in the tech industry, or you work in tax accountancy, where you're quite a rare commodity, so you could probably still can submit a CV and probably still get an interview. But the roles where it's more diverse, project management, finance roles, HR, TA, it's so competitive right now that you have to do something different to stand out. Starting from the CV, right? But also as well, just how you engage with people on the platform, how you market yourself. Just hitting an easy apply button now on LinkedIn won't cut it, unfortunately.
Yep. And what would you say to people who think, oh wow, I don't really know what else to do. I haven't looked for a job for a while. Last time I was headhunted for this role, so I haven't really had to proactively, let's break it down, because there will be some people who we assume, because of their level or stage of career, have done this plenty of times before and know what they need to do. From your point of, looking out from a role in a TA team or leading a TA team, and I know you've written about this on LinkedIn as well, but for people that haven't seen that data and that information, what are the key things that you'd be looking for, whether you have 100 CVs or 20 CVs for a role that you might have put out into the market?
I think you have to align your CV to the role, first of all. You also have to have, the problem you've got is, like you said earlier, people just apply to a number of roles that aren't a good fit. And then the problem that you've got is that you put a role to market, you're then awash with 100 CVs that aren't the right fit. So I get candidates are desperate right now, I understand that. But equally as well, I wouldn't apply to a CPO role. It's not my level right now, and it's just basically wasting my time and the recruiter's time. So of course, it's being considerate to the recruiter, but also to your own job search. Also,
and what it also does is gives one a kind of a view that actually Dominic's applying for jobs everywhere. So how serious is he about this particular role, and is he just scattergunning? So it does change the recruiters, whether in-house or agency. It changes their mindset on that individual.
Exactly. So my dog is now being difficult down. Sorry, it's just, as you can see there, just in the background is now vying for my attention, which is always, as you can tell, all morning has not bothered me at all, does not care about me. Except when we get on the call, wants to know. Plus I've got Wayfair covered in 2 minutes too. So this is, everyone watching this, this is what life is like when you obviously take calls, both interviews and meetings,
home.
right? So yeah, I think so the dog's completely off the train of thought there. So yeah, we're looking for
Talking
CVs,
about,
I think,
yeah,
standing out. The problem you get as well is people go about it the wrong way of proactivity, right? They will message you and say, here's my CV, what jobs do you have? And that is not any way to go about it in a positive manner. You might think you're being proactive, but what you're really doing is saying, I don't know what I want. Like, tell me, here's my CV, coach me and guide me. Unfortunately, in TA, we don't have the time or capability to basically coach people and to treat everyone fairly. If I then reply to every email saying, here's my CV, what jobs do you have? I would do my day job.
yeah.
We've got an ATS that obviously manages the applications. We've got a careers page, which once again helps you tell you what's available. So it's a tough market because you have to basically stand out by applying, and very rarely can you basically backdoor yourself. But equally as well, there's ways around. Obviously, I always say in your job search, find 20 companies that you want to work for. Set about adding people in the function there. You work in HR, add the CPO, the CHRO, add colleagues, peers, and when you connect with them, again, don't go for the hard sell. Hey, look, how's it working at company X? They're my top 20 to work for. How do you find it? How did you get into there? Were you headhunted? Did you apply? You're seeking to learn and be a student from people and looking to basically gain knowledge. You're not looking to sell. And people are always so fast to sell themselves, sell a product, sell a solution, very often to be asked to be taught or asked for education. But in doing so, you build relationships. So of course, then when there's a role coming out, they might think, oh, well, so-and-so reached out to me the other day. She actually works in HR. Oh, in fact, she didn't try and ram her CV down my throat and was like, I need a job. So I think it's all about building relationships. Now, if you're looking for work now, that doesn't matter. Start connecting now. You can add 100 people a week on LinkedIn. Carefully create your network, but not just add people, engage with their content. You haven't got to go and post content every day. You can do 1 or 2 posts that are around your career search or sharing intel in the market. That's perfectly fine. But engage with content, engage with stakeholders, be visible on the platform. That's also how you stand out, because sometimes, let's face it, a certain person at a certain company will be noticed because of where they work and what they do, versus someone in another company. But people can't engage with what they can't see.
And to that point, I think when you get your job, even if you think you're going to be there for a good 5-6 years, the work you've done in creating that network is still super important. I think LinkedIn as a platform specifically, which I guess we're talking about, if we're talking about networking at this stage and keeping it all in one place, is a platform that is utilized by a lot of.
Sorry, this is... Give me 1 minute, Harry. Apologies. Thank you. Sorry.
Shoot off. And this is what happens when you work from home, folks. The doorbell rings when you're in the middle of something super important. And because I'm not technically capable of pausing this and then working out how to edit it, I'm going to keep the tape rolling, but hopefully Dominic should be back soon. I think the key thing here is making yourself accountable for your job search. So whether you're working with a talent acquisition team internally, or whether you're working with a recruitment partner like Trapeze, you're constantly building networks, reaching out. Sounds very American, but reaching out to that network, and as Dominic has said, talking to them more generally about what they do, learning about their businesses, with an ultimate goal of obviously thinking that you might be able to get in front of them to talk about what you do and your skill set. And that could be further down the line. In a way, it's like a little bit like business development, but really warming up and engaging and building relationships with people, so that you've got that network already there. And what I was going to go on to say is, even if you're in a role, don't put all the hard work to waste. Keep, communicating with people, keep connecting to people, and eventually, next time it's a worthy piece of work. I'm just talking to the camera on my own.
Perfectly fine. I was running downstairs to catch a breath, and I was like, and the dog was barking, the delivery person, and I was like,
you. A
this
day
is
in the life of
pandemonium.
a
So
working from home individual.
I missed the some days I miss the office, right? Some days I do miss the office.
I agree. Yeah, I was just talking to myself, but hopefully to anyone that's listening, and I'm saying to you that actually, having warmed up that network and really spent some time connecting with people, the joy of that is that you then build relationships, whether or not you're doing it for a purpose at that stage. So whilst you're in a job, actually the point is keep posting content, keep connecting, keep reading what people are doing, keep commenting, keep, you know, that network alive, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I think same with your CV, right? Just because you've got a job doesn't mean you stop editing your CV. I always said, always keep a live CV, because anything that you achieve during your tenure, put it on there and then. Doesn't mean you're looking for a role, right? But I kept my CV live. So TravelX, when I was given notice of garden leave, it was good to go. Literally, I could apply for jobs there and then. There was no weekend scrambling thinking, I've done the last 18 months, what value did I add? It was all there. Same with your network, right? You don't just start connecting and then stop when you need a job. Make it work for you, because I think I'm a prime example that I did the post. I've got 52,000 followers, which has been years, by the way,
Wow.
of a lot
accruing
of
those
years
and
of,
putting out great content and all the bits we've just talked about.
but I still add people, right? I'm not naive to think, oh, you must come to me. I still add people in the HR field, TA field, pretty much most fields and companies that I think someday I'll have some impact in there. Whether it's to try and take their staff in a TA function, or work for them, or educate them, or just be part of the network and share best practice. So I think, you know, set a goal to basically every day add 10 people. That's 70 a week, right? Some accept, some don't, but also people add you. And the more you engage, and the more you comment, share your thoughts, right? Often it's a subjective topic, right? So your opinion is not wrong, but equals are people then see how you interact with people, how you engage, your overview there. So, you know, I still have people all the time. In fact, last week, now I'm on the job hunt, I hit my limit of 100 invitations. I'd stop. So, same with that, CV and connecting people, ABC, always be connecting. It'll play on the whole, always be closing sort of sales line there. But yeah, and then also there's loads of free events, webinars, everything. Join them. Like I still learn so much from people that have been in the industry less time than me and more time than me. Always be a student, never stop learning.
Yeah, I agree with that actually, and I'm surprised how much I can learn off people who have just started out, because their views are different and the way they do things, and equally knowledge share and learn from those above. So we talked a bit about, I guess if we're talking about etiquette overall in terms of your job search, we've obviously talked about being thoughtful about what you're applying for, because that in itself can give the person the other end of the application an idea of your kind of focus on your search, but equally, you know, is not wasting anyone's time just simply by hitting a button and then, you know, expecting someone to come back to you and talking to them about something totally irrelevant to what you've applied. What's the next stage? So someone gets a conversation going and they come in for interviews. So how would we, it's not necessarily on interview skills this, but how would we consider etiquette when we're looking at that communication piece and following through the process of potentially applying and then going for a job interview?
Sure. I mean, etiquette from the candidate side, you mean, or from our side?
Yeah. Well, I guess both, but
yeah.
on this, it's the focus on the candidate and, you know, their responsibility, i.e. turning up, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I saw a recent press release in the Daily Mail about some Gen Z person that was on The Apprentice saying that it's empowering to ghost interviews with people. And I think in the whole life cycle,
I read that.
And it's just, again, it's clickbait nonsense, right? I think, look, we do see ghosting of feedback from recruiters, right? I don't think you've ever seen us publicised a ghosting of an interview from a hiring manager. Could you imagine if someone didn't turn up to an interview from the hiring manager side of it, the recruiter side of it, the uproar, and rightly so, right, that you get. But then, you know, recruiters take time to schedule interviews, check diaries, then just not turn up does not empower you. It gives you a blacklist. So I think
But also they've taken the place of someone else, haven't they? They've taken the place of someone who could have really needed that role and wanted it, and equally would have given it their all. So
100%. I think as a candidate, basically form clear lines of communication, as in, and also set agenda, right? So recruiter, if you try to call me during 9 and 5, where I work's a closed building, I can't have my phone on me. So email me and I'll respond in the evenings. Or here's my diary for the week ahead. I have 7 interviews at these companies. And also, when you interview for roles, right, I'm going to interview this job on Friday. Right now, when's your last interview that you have for this role? I need to know how many are in process, not my business. I just need to know when the last interview is with the manager, when you're sitting down for feedback, and when I'll hear back as a candidate, because it's our job to set that agenda, right? If candidates can still ask for it and request it. Yeah, good recruiter to say, right, you're in process for interview, you're first person in there, last person's on Friday. Probably wrap up around Tuesday times. By Wednesday latest, I'll have feedback about next steps. As a candidate, you know that from Monday to next Wednesday that you can do nothing else to impact that. You might want to send a follow-up email and say thank you, which again, I don't get many of those. And they're phone ones, right? I guess you've been there too. That if you know that you've done a really bad job interviewing, a really well crafted, be careful, like thank you letter won't change their mind. And often as well as a hiring manager, you think, right, this person's not right. To then get a thank you letter, it won't change their mind. It won't impact it. It's nice to receive, and so I think be careful of that, because if you liked it and you get a good feeling, a good buying signal, then send one. But don't assume just because you sent that will reinforce your candidacy further. And just think, also be transparent, right? That if you have other roles in play, tell them. Like, it makes you desirable. There's no arrogance behind it to say, oh, I'm interviewing elsewhere. It's just, right, I'm in demand, where it's non-arrogant, and just say, right, but I like you guys, let's make it work. And just, if communication is clear from both sides, right, what you basically get there is that if it's not an offer, but it's a good process, you then basically organically generate boomerang candidates that enjoy the process and go, do you know what? You were communicative, you were transparent and honest. You can get the role this time, but I liked how I was treated as a person. I'll recommend friends to you. I myself will come back because of the experience I got. So as recruiters, it's our job to basically generate that experience for them. The candidates help themselves, right? Because of course, it's quite incestuous recruitment, right? In terms of like people to people. And if you apply to a number of jobs or you ghost people, people talk. Not in terms of, not obviously in GDPR sense, but
no, they share. Yeah, and if someone was to say, "Oh, we've just interviewed this person," or this person started, you can absolutely join the dots. I think on the flip side of that, if someone doesn't share that they've got other interviews in play, and then they're at offer stage, that's detrimental to them and also clearly to the business that's offering. But they can use that in a positive way to be able to say, well, I've got an interview here, I've now been offered, and obviously all in terms of the truth, this is where I am with this, so could we speed your process up, or is there going to be a timeline? So you can actually manufacture in a positive way that, but equally to then be offered and to pull out because you've got an offer sitting the sidelines which your recruiter didn't know about, whether they're an agency recruiter or they're in part of a business, leaves no one in a happy place. So you're again putting all the great work that you've put into getting to that offer to waste, because you've ultimately left the business feeling disappointed. If you go for another offer and you've been transparent, then that's nothing anyone could do. But I think that transparency, that honesty is key. And actually, I have heard stories in the past, and I think it happened to me when I very, very first started looking for work, where recruiters were getting very cross when someone turned down a role, because clearly, in those days, and still now to a certain extent, it was just, I want to fill a job and I want to get my placement fee. And I will never forget a large company that I first worked with as a candidate. I was a candidate. I said no for a PA job years ago, back in late 90s. And I never forget the feeling of that recruiter getting cross with me. She was shouting at me down the phone about why I hadn't taken a job. And I'd been transparent all the way. I had another job to go to, and I was interviewing, and I just didn't feel the culture at the architect's firm was for me, whatever else. So that transparency all the way, that you've got other things in the pipeline, but equally building a relationship, a respective relationship with your recruiter, goes all the way. There's always going to be an anomaly, but ultimately, if you're building a relationship and it's trusted, you can go back and forwards with that recruiter and they can help you in the next role.
Also, like that candidate you give feedback to could be a future manager one day or another client, right? So it's such a weird environment where you never know where you're going to meet that person.
Agreed.
Equally, if you're hiring for managers and then you're hiring for CPO, right? Could you imagine like giving a CPO a bad experience, then you go through the process to another company where they now are. Oh, I know John. John gave me a really bad experience when I was at company X. Actually, no, do you know what? I don't think he's right for the role.
Yeah.
Funny things that happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've covered off etiquette. If we're looking at from the flip side of AI, and I know this is a whole new conversation, and we won't touch on it for a long time, but just to kind of how things are changing from both sides. So again, you can very much put your CV out into several different job opportunities with AI now, I guess. And someone did do that overnight, didn't they? There was this article that someone had spent a month looking for jobs and had hardly any interviews off the back of it. I think he sent 400 CVs out and got 3 interviews. Overnight, he set his and his brother's system out. I don't know how it works, but to apply for jobs, and he sent something ridiculous like 4,000 jobs and got 20 interviews literally overnight. And I don't know how relevant that was in terms of what he wanted to do and whatever else, but I'm guessing it was only as good as what he put into the algorithm. What could we do better as TA specialists and recruitment partners to ensure that the way AI is impacting talent gives a positive experience in all the human, and this is a much longer conversation, but just on the very surface of it, gives a more human element to someone's job search. Because if we're saying that as a job seeker, this is the part you have to play, for those looking for super individuals that write for their business, or those that even aren't right at this time but might be good in the future, so you want to give a great experience to, and ultimately just a human touch, because a job search is an emotive thing, what could we do to make that a more seamless and human focused process with AI to help us?
I think be transparent to candidates, right? When they're applying to an interview or to a role, sorry, and they get that email of acknowledgement. So many companies just do the same thing. Thank you for applying, we'll be in touch. Tell us more. Tell us about the Unity process. Tell us about your company and what you're doing to basically improve diversity and inclusion. But say also, we now use generative AI in our process. Here's where we use it. So that way they're informed, but you can say we still care about the human touch points. So if a company's looking to use AI in a TA function, understand where it'll benefit the business and also the candidates, right? It's not about just the business benefit. Think of the ROI behind it. So think about where's the most cumbersome part of doing a TA's job, right? The admin work. So tell candidates we're here to basically remove, obviously, the grunt work for TA to make sure, of course, that we have a better chance to communicate with you. So in doing so, these features will basically schedule interviews for you, matching up diaries, so that it's left time for me to really put in a time to talk to you through the role, engage with you, do more around obviously the content piece to talk about the roles more. So I think companies need to be aware of, one, why they're using AI, also set the permissions for it, because I always say that putting AI into a company is like bringing a new puppy home to your house. If you just let it loose in there, it will cause havoc and it will just do its own thing.
Yeah.
Set boundaries, set parameters behind it, train it to make sure, of course, that when it is fully trained, that it has its boundaries, that it is, you know, respected, it is valued, and it has a purpose, right? So that's on the surface, right? Is make sure, of course, that you don't remove the human side of it. I saw a video the other day, I think it was in like the EMEA, where they had a completely generative AI recruiter video asking the person the questions. So it was obviously a person that was just, and it was spooky. Like I'm fine to have at some point potentially video interviews where it's one way, where you will answer to it, to the camera,
Yeah.
as long as you still have human touch points, right? But just it's the most humanistic part of hiring people, right? And people buy people.
Yeah.
AI doesn't buy people. That's a bit of a weird concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot that I've spoke to you before on this, but when we kind of did a survey, if you like, a poll of our HR and TA professionals within our community, 54% of them had utilised AI in their talent offering specifically. The rest hadn't even looked at any other areas of their HR offering, and some hadn't even looked at, TA at all. So, as in, they hadn't even looked at using AI. So it's an obvious area because it's quite process driven. So it will take out the timing and it'll help with many things. I'm still unsure of that kind of keyword search when people apply and looking through CVs and trawling, because as we all know, and as I've experienced recently with over 400 CVs for a senior role, there's someone behind that CV. So I know a CV has a purpose, or people might argue, and I think you've done something on this around, is the CV does it have relevance anymore? But something to get in front of a hiring manager, whether it's a TA person or someone who's actually going to ultimately be your boss, is better than nothing. But actually, what does that look like? Because behind everything there is a human. So I guess, how do we make AI in the recruitment offering recognize that? And I don't know what that looks like, and I'm sure somewhere out there someone's working on it, or they've done it and they've nailed it. But yeah, that's another conversation. Is there anything to add before we finish on either of these topics? And I realise we've done the last bit quite quickly, but in terms of the candidate market, it's quite tough at the moment. So if there was one piece of gold you could leave with those listening to this, whether they're on the hiring side and just looking, in terms of what their talent pool could be doing, or whether they're in it themselves, what would be that kind of one piece that you're maybe experiencing yourself at the moment, where you've seen on the other side of the table?
I think from a candidate side of it, never stop learning. There's loads of free courses on there to upskill yourself in many different areas, right? You can work in finance, you can work in legal, you can work in, marketing. Start learning about AI, because it's going to affect everyone's jobs. When I say affect, not from a negative point of view, right? Not impact it, but it'll take your jobs. But AI will be a co-pilot in a lot of companies these days. The sooner that you understand how AI works, how it benefits your role, how you yourself harness it, that makes you a pretty desirable commodity in the marketplace. If you can go to a company and say, right, I'm an accountant, but I've also studied generative AI and how it basically helps us forecast and predict future trends. I know how to use it. That makes you valuable. So from a candidate side, from a company side, if you're going to use AI, understand how and why you want to use it, not because everyone's doing it. It's not a trend. You know, it's basically it's a means to making it a better process for candidates and for
Yeah.
recruitment teams, right? So I guess TA teams, if you're going to use AI, do it with purpose. Candidates, learn more about AI, help it write your CV, but don't let it write it all. Help it guide you. If you've got a point to make about a bullet point, say, how can I phrase this achievement better? Ask AI. Let it write it out for you, but then reword it yourself. Don't be submissive to the robots that work in the AI space, but just collaborate.
And actually, collaboration and communication is probably the key for everything we've discussed, isn't it? Brill, thank you so much for your time, Dominic. I've really enjoyed it. I know I've been trying to get hold of you for so long, and I'm grateful for your time today. I know this won't probably be the end of the conversations we have, but for now, I hope everyone listening has got a little nugget from this. And yeah, really appreciative.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks, Harriet.
Take care.
Thank you.